Once there was a cruel king who ruled over a poor country. He was very harsh and would take away everything valuable, gold, silver, property, from the people who did not agree with him. His kingdom was very poor because of his cruelty. The king was also very powerful, and he often fought with the other countries, taking control of them. Because of this, other countries knew about him and were afraid of him. One day, an old man came to the king's court. He was very sick and weak. Crying, he begged to the king,
"Please give me some bread. My wife and daughter both are very sick and weak from hunger. If they don't eat something, they will die."
But instead of helping, the king threw the old man in prison. After some time, when the old man was released, he found out that his wife and daughter had died from hunger. Heartbroken, the old man went back to the king and cursed him, saying that,
"Just as my wife and daughter died of hunger, so will you suffer. Even though you have everything, you won't be able to eat. Your wife will be with you, but unable to help, and your daughter will bring you shame."
The king became very angry and ordered the old man to be imprisoned again. Later on, the king's daughter married a slave, which the king could not accept. In anger, he ordered the slave to be killed. A year later, the king's wife had another daughter. The king remembered the old man's curse and ordered the queen's maid to kill the baby as soon as she was born. The queen fainted when she heard this and never woke up again. Even after many treatments, the king, who loved his queen very much, could not stand to see her like this. Soon, he also became very sick. Lumps formed in his throat, making it impossible for him to eat, and he could not rest because of the pain. He called for doctors from far away, but none could cure him or the queen. Because of the king's illness, another country took over his kingdom. Now, with nothing left, the once cruel king was helpless. He went to the old man and begged for forgiveness, asking him to take back the curse. The old man replied,
"Your suffering won't end until you help someone in need."
The king, sad and tired, returned to his empty palace, thinking about his mistakes and crying over them. One day, a girl ran into the palace looking for a safe place to hide. She came into the room where the king was sitting with his unconscious queen. Crying, she asked, "Please help me. Is there any safe place where I can hide?" The king, knowing every corner of the palace, hid the girl in a safe spot. Soon after, some boys came to the palace and asked the king about the girl, but the king didn't tell them anything, and they left. After they were gone, the girl came out and told the king that her name was Nida. She explained that her father couldn't pay a debt, and the creditor was going to take her as a slave. She had ran away to save herself and didn't know how to pay the debt. The king, moved by her tears, took a ring from the queen's hand and gave it to the girl, telling her to use it to pay off the debt. Nida did as the king said, paid off the debt, and came back the next day to thank him. Knowing that the king was very sick and couldn't eat, Nida began bringing soup for him every day, feeding him with her own hands. The king started to get better after drinking the soup. One day, Nida's mother followed her to the palace, curious about who she was helping. When she saw her daughter feeding the king, she understood everything. Nida's mother then told the king, "Do you know who this girl is? She's your daughter, the one you ordered to be killed when she was born. My sister, who was the queen's maid, couldn't kill the baby, and secretly was overwhelmed and gave her to me to raise. She told you that the baby had been washed away in the river. The king was overwhelmed, asked for forgiveness, and hugged Nida. When Nida, crying, went to her mother, her tears fall on the queen. As the queen miraculously opened her eyes, the king thanked the goat, saying,
My suffering has finally ended.
From that day on, the queen and the king lived happily together, doing good deeds and making up for their past wrongs. So, the moral of the story: what goes around comes around. Treat others with kindness or face the consequences of your own actions.